in the electric glow of a summer night in Carson, California. The atmosphere inside the ring felt less like a sporting event and more like the moment before a storm breaks. Fans pressed forward in their seats, sensing history teetering on the edge of becoming real. And then, the lights dimmed, the announcer stepped forward, and the moment the boxing world had been waiting for unfolded. "Ladies and gentlemen," he proclaimed, voice rolling through the arena like a drumbeat. "Here is the renowned two-time Olympic gold medalist, Vasyl Lomachenko." The crowd erupted as the Ukrainian phenom stepped into the blue corner. Calm, expression unreadable, the weight of his legendary amateur past carried effortlessly on his shoulders. This was only his third professional fight, yet he moved like a man who'd walked these aisles 1,000 times. Across the ring, the red corner vibrated with equal energy. The undefeated, lightning-fast American star Gary Russell Jr. followed the spotlight, his footsteps sharp, precise, every stride radiating confidence. His fans roared with pride. This was their unbeaten prodigy, their future champion. Both men circled the ring in silence as the venerable referee Jack Rice issued his final instructions. "Listen and obey. Protect yourself at all times. Fight hard, fight clean." The fighters nodded once, twice, their eyes locked. This wasn't just about a title. It was a collision between two different versions of perfection. Lomachenko, the master technician sculpted over 400 amateur bouts, and Russell, the prodigy forged in American gyms, unbeaten across 24 professional tests. As the opening bell neared, one truth became clear. The world was about to witness a rare confrontation where speed meets precision, where pedigree meets potential, and where one man's dream would collide viciously with the ambition of another. The first rounds unfolded like a chess match disguised as a fistfight. Gary Russell Jr. came out exactly as expected. Fast, agile, flicking his jab like a whip crack, testing Lomachenko's reactions. His hands flashed in tight combinations, three-shot bursts that forced the Ukrainian to respect the speed in front of him. But Lomachenko, calm as a winter lake, refused to be rushed. He angled, stepped, dipped, letting punches slip through air so thin it seemed choreographed. Every micro-movement was deliberate, every twitch of the shoulders a message. "You cannot hurry me." Past the midpoint of the opening round, the pattern began to show. Russell was active, but Lomachenko was accurate. A stiff jab, a sneaky straight left to the body, a short counter right that snapped Russell's head just enough to make him reconsider. The commentators warned that Russell couldn't simply rely on speed. Against a fighter with Lomachenko's pedigree, he needed feints, layers, unpredictability. Lomachenko was already reading him like a textbook. As round two began, the exchanges intensified. Russell darted in with volume, but the Ukrainian timed him, cracking him with a clean right hand that sent ripples through the arena. Lomachenko wasn't throwing many punches, but every one carried intent. He was measuring, dissecting, drawing information from each exchange like a master surgeon diagnosing a patient. By round three, the rhythm shifted further. Lomachenko's footwork, so often described but rarely appreciated in real time, began to weave a net around Russell. Step around, pivot, angle, attack. A left hand down the middle forced Russell into the ropes. A digging series of body shots followed, thudding so cleanly the crowd gasped. Lomachenko was no longer studying. He was beginning to take command. The middle rounds became the battlefield where the fight's true story emerged. Russell pushed the pace bravely, firing in bursts, trying desperately to steal moments before Lomachenko could find his rhythm again. For flashes at a time, the American's speed gave him openings. Quick hooks upstairs, rapid-fire jabs, darting steps in and out of range. But every time he tried to surge, Lomachenko punished him. A counter left slipped between Russell's gloves. A right hook wrapped around the guard and caught him clean on the jaw. And then came the bodywork, relentless, precise, and devastating. Lomachenko dug into Rusyl's ribs with short, ripping shots that echoed through the venue. The Ukrainian's punches weren't thrown recklessly. They were calculated strikes, aimed at draining the engine of a man known for explosive bursts. By round 5 and 6, the difference in physical effect was undeniable. Vasyl was still throwing more, but Lomachenko was landing the punches that mattered, punches that stopped momentum cold, punches that made Vasyl pause instead of press. At one point, Lomachenko nearly folded him with a perfectly timed left to the liver, and only Rusyl's pride kept him upright. The crowd could feel it. The tide had turned. Lomachenko's angles grew sharper, his confidence thicker. He stepped around Vasyl like a phantom, firing combinations from directions no one else in the division could even conceptualize. Still, Vasyl fought on with grit. Late in the 6th, he rallied with his best flurry of the fight, snapping Lomachenko's head with 2 crisp shots, forcing the Ukrainian to reset. It was a reminder that this wasn't a runaway, it was a war of attrition. But with every passing minute, Lomachenko looked more fluid, more comfortable, more inevitable. The ring was becoming his canvas, and Vasyl was being forced to react instead of create. As the championship rounds neared, the wear and tear on Gary Vasyl Jr. became visible in ways no slow-motion replay could hide. His punches still came fast, but no longer with the same sharpness. His feet still moved, but now with a hint of hesitation. And in boxing, hesitation is blood in the water. Lomachenko sensed it instantly. He stalked forward with icy composure, slipping Rusyl's combinations with subtle rolls of the shoulders, answering with thudding counters. A straight left snapped Rusyl's head back so violently the audience gasped. Moments later, another body shot, brutal, surgical, forced Vasyl onto his heels again. Lomachenko walked him down, hands high, eyes predatory. Yet every time Vasyl looked like he might fade, he answered. In round 8, he surged unexpectedly, throwing clean hooks that briefly pushed Lomachenko back. In round 9, he fought with grit, firing combinations in the pocket, refusing to let the narrative slip away from him. But every offensive stand came at a cost. Lomachenko's replies were darker, heavier, more damaging. A vicious right hook, a stinging counter left. A sequence late in the 10th round saw Lomachenko rattle Vasyl with a massive shot that had the arena rising to its feet, expecting a knockdown that somehow never came. Vasyl's chin held, but his body language betrayed the truth. Lomachenko's punches were breaking him down piece by piece. Still, the American fought with heart, battling through fatigue and frustration, trying to flip a fight that was starting to feel like an uphill climb through deep water. In the corner between rounds, Rusyl's father urged him with fierce desperation. Repeat the attack. This is your fight to win. But Lomachenko was no longer simply winning rounds. He was controlling every variable of the combat itself. The Ukrainian machine had found its full rhythm. The 12th and final round arrived like the closing act of a grand drama. Both men stood from their stools with the posture of fighters who understood exactly what was at stake. Vasyl, breathing heavily but eyes burning with determination, charged forward, throwing combinations with whatever he had left. He attacked the body, tried to smother Lomachenko's angles, tried to turn chaos into opportunity. But Lomachenko was unmoved, unbreakable. He slipped, pivoted, countered, firing sharp, punishing shots that sliced through Rusyl's guard. At one moment, Vasyl dipped low, and Lomachenko clipped him with a punch borderline on the belt line, prompting a brief pause. But when the action resumed, Lomachenko reasserted command instantly, closing the show with poise. The final minute was a battle of wills, Vasyl refusing to yield, Lomachenko refusing to allow doubt. The bell rang, ending 12 rounds of brilliant violence. Both men returned to their corners exhausted, drenched in sweat, knowing they had been part of something memorable. When the fighters were called to center ring and the scores were read, after 12 rounds, we have a majority decision. The tension crystallized, and then it broke. Winner, Vasyl Lomachenko. The arena erupted as the Ukrainian raised his gloves, claiming his first world title in only his third professional fight. Russell nodded with dignity, knowing he had given everything against a once-in-a-generation talent. The night ended not just with a victor, but with the emergence of a new force, Lomachenko, the artist with gloves, the man whose footwork carved new dimensions into boxing itself. This wasn't just a win. It was the moment a future legend announced himself to the world.